Hey everybody, Tyree, we're here with Before I Forget, along with Kevin, the main man, the can of spam. I don't know, but Kevin's here, folks.
Yeah, stop saying stuff. What's up? Every time, man. Every time. It's the weirdest intro.
Right. I try to keep it together.
Yeah. Hey, so today we got a really
I
cool
think the
show. No, go ahead, man.
oh, I was going to say I think the can of spam is appropriate based on where I live.
Exactly. See, that's where it's coming from. See
Yeah, I
how
didn't even think about that.
it's in
Yeah,
here. It's in here.
yeah.
Trying
Like you're gonna act like you did it on purpose,
no,
right?
it's clearly on purpose.
Well, hey, so to all of our listeners and watchers, we have a very special guest today with us. His name is William Branum, former Navy SEAL, 26 years in the military, in the Navy, and CEO and founder of the Naked Warrior Recovery. Super excited to talk about what he has done, what he is doing, his products, and just general conversation. So let's see where this goes, y'all.
Hey,
William, go ahead and say hi.
Hey, how's it going? I thought I already did kind of with
Yeah.
with that intro with the can of spam.
A little formal intro, I guess.
yeah, an official intro.
Yeah.
Let's see. Formally, my name is William Branum. I spent 26 years in the SEAL teams. I feel bad when I say that because it's not exactly the truth. I really spent 23 of my 26 years in the Navy and the SEAL teams. It just seems easier to say 26-year Navy SEAL or
Right.
26 years in the SEAL teams. I had I made some tactical errors prior to getting there, which delayed me a few years getting to SEAL training. And we can maybe cover some of that stuff, but and I think a lot of us make errors like that in our life and business and things. But yeah, I spent originally from Meridian, Mississippi, or just outside of Meridian, Mississippi, heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. I swore I would never join the Navy, and then I went to this Boy Scout National Jamboree, and I met a kid. He was like, "Yeah, so when I graduate high school, I'm gonna go to the Naval Academy." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then I also want to fly F-14 Tomcats like Top Gun. I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool too. I think I want to do that." And I also want to be a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, "What's that?" He was like, "Oh, it's the hardest military training in the world and all this other stuff." This was before the internets existed, and there were not very many books out there. I think the movie Navy SEALs, the original Navy SEALs movie, had just come out. So there was, I hadn't watched it because I only had like 4 channels growing up, and so yeah, so I went to this jamboree. I came back, and I always knew I wanted to be part of some sort of small elite military organization, although I had no clue what that even meant. I just knew that I didn't want to be part of like a big, like the big green army. Or I for sure knew I didn't want to be on one of those big gray things that float out there in the ocean. That didn't work out exactly the way I planned. Maybe like the Air Force had something cool. They have airplanes, so maybe that was it. Maybe the Marine Corps Scout Sniper. Maybe that was, that seemed pretty cool because I liked hunting and shooting and things like that. And but I went to that jamboree. This kid talked to me about Navy SEALs and the Naval Academy and flying F-14 Tomcats, and I'm like, I want to do all of that stuff. I only did 1 out of 3, so you know underachiever over here, I guess.
Right. I would say of the 3, though, I mean, you went pretty above and beyond, right? I mean, Navy SEAL. That is,
yeah.
I remember when we were on active duty. So we were active duty from 01 to 05. I'm in the reserves now, and I'm retiring this year. But I remember thinking about like Army Special Forces, Ranger, all of that stuff, CAG, just being this like thing that you heard about, this myth, this story that people told, but it never really seemed like it was an attainable thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one of my
Sure.
favorite movies growing up was that movie Navy SEAL with oh my gosh, Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen.
That movie made me want to own a Jeep and own an H&K MP5 and be a Navy SEAL, and I did 2 of the 3. So
I think
not to one up you.
yeah, I think every person in the Army has thought about owning a Jeep at one point in their career.
Yeah, but did they do that because of the movie Navy SEAL when he jumped out of the back of it off the bridge into the river?
Probably.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was the thing. It always just seemed like this big, unattainable, mysterious realm that, like, because we were stationed in Germany, and for us to go to any of these schools, I mean, stateside, and pre-ranger courses weren't very often, and selection for SF was I mean, they never came over there. I mean, we had like I think one time in 2003, but that was about it, you know. So, but no, so it's
Yeah.
definitely
out in front of PX.
That was all I wanted to do. Like that was the only reason I joined the Navy. Oh, the SEAL teams. Okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. I think
Yeah.
I don't, but I did. But again, I had no idea even what that was.
yeah.
Really at all.
So
I'm like, how hard can it be? That was my thinking. It was pretty hard actually.
right. Well, I mean, like the kid said, I mean, one of the hardest military trainings on the planet. So you joined the Navy. 3 years later, you're a SEAL. I had read on your website that like you thought once you got through buds, you know, that was the hard part, and now it's like I've made it into the teams. I'm a SEAL. I got my trident, and life is it's coasting from here. And that was like dead wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was 100% wrong. So actually, the way that when I went through, so it took me 3 years just to get to SEAL training, and then I went through it, and you know it's 6 months long, and it took me a short 13 months to graduate that 6-month block of training because I got injured a few times. I like doing things the hard way, apparently. You know, and I failed the screening test the first time I took it. I took it in boot camp, and I was really focusing on the minimum number. You know, there's a minimum, you know, you have to do the swim in a certain amount of time. You have a minimum number of push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and a minimum time of the run, or a maximum time of the run. And on those push-ups, like, so I did the swim fine. I got out of the water, changed clothes, came back out, and the minimum number is 52 push-ups. That's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I think I got to like 38, and I was like 39. Okay, I don't think I can do it anymore. I have to go back and get stronger. And so I failed it the first time I took it. And actually I failed it the second time I took it too. But that was because I destroyed everyone. So this was fast forward. I was on a ship and working on, you know, doing my package to go to buds, and the screening test to become a SEAL is exactly the same as it is to become a Navy diver, is exactly the same as it is to become a Navy EOD guy. The numbers, I'm sorry, the workout or the test is the same. The requirements are different. So I have to do more push-ups, more pull-ups, more sit-ups. I have to swim faster and run faster. And also for the SEAL screening test, you have to wear, you know, long pants and boots, and everything else is shorts and tennis shoes. So I was the fastest swimmer. I did the most push-ups. I did the most pull-ups. I did the most sit-ups. And then we did the run, and I was the first one to finish the run. And I guess there was some ego that got involved, and I was like, I got this. And I just kind of coasted towards the end, and I failed the run by like 13 seconds.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I beat everyone else. And I thought I was like all good to go. But yeah, so I had to go take it again, and that was disheartening a little bit.
No, I can. Oh, geez.
Was the scale the same, or was it did it change for your age? Because a lot of different schools in the Army, your PT test.
Yeah, no, it's like they don't care how old you are, how young you are. They like this is the minimum standard.
The standard, yeah. Okay.
The end. If you pass it, awesome. If you don't, there's another job for you somewhere in the Navy. But yeah, just to kind of go back and answer that question, you know, the first thing you asked is, yeah, you know, when I graduated SEAL training, I was like, it's like the hard stuff is over, and I couldn't have been more wrong. Like you show up at the SEAL teams, and you're nobody. They are like, yeah, new guy, go take out the trash. And actually, I didn't even earn my trident until almost a year of being at the team. Once you get there, you graduate, you don't get your trident. I mean, really? You do now. It's a little different now. But you get to the team, and you're on probation for about a year back then. And then you prove that you have what it takes. You prove that you're a team player. You do the things that you need to do. You learn the things you needed to learn. And then when the team is ready, when they think that you're ready, they'll put you. And then I also went through another school called SEAL tactical training, and it's where you actually learn like advanced skills, so you can just roll into the SEAL platoon and actually be a functioning member. So I went through that, and you know, again on probation, worked my way through the workup. And then at some point they're like, before you deploy, we're like, okay, we'll do a trident board on you to see if you learned anything.
Yeah.
And if you really want to be there. And if you fail this board, you get one more shot to take it. And if you fail it the second time, they send you to the fleet. We don't care if you did all that stuff. If you fail this board, it's just because you didn't care enough to put forth the effort to study for it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's things like you're a new guy and you're like in a room with a bunch of old salty dudes and they're like, okay, there's an MP5, there's a table full of weapons. There's a radio over there. Go program it. Go put crypto in it. Go show me how you, plot a dive. Plot a dive out there. And here's the coordinates you need to do. Show us how it's all going to work out for you. While disassembling, an MP5 or an M4 or an M60. Talk about your 7 points of performance. Talk about like what you do when you're under canopy. Talk like jump master level questions that they were asking me, which were like, I barely knew the answer because I only had like 15 jumps at that point. I certainly was no jump master, but when you walk in that room and you're expected to know at least 80% of the questions that they ask you. And, while they're asking you questions and you're taking guns apart and you're loading crypto and you're doing all these other things, they're looking at like, are you clear and safe in the weapon before? Cause it does have dummy rounds in there. Are you sweeping anyone? Are you doing all the things that you're supposed to do? Do you actually know what you're talking? Are you good enough for us to award you the Trident to call you a Navy SEAL? And so that's kind of been lost a little bit after we kind of changed things up and created this pipeline for guys. But while I was still in the teams, we would have these boards for guys. Now we couldn't send guys to the fleet, but we would certainly shame them if they failed their Trident board prior to deployment.
Yeah.
Like a lot of shame. Like you get all the shit jobs. The end.
All the shame. So I mean, I got to ask you then. So with that change, that's a major change if you think about it. I mean, the Army did the same thing when they created the 18 X-ray program for people to join the Army as a Special Forces candidate. Yeah. And to me, what that shows, and I think we saw it play out in live action during that ambush in Africa. I can't remember which group it was, but I mean, a lot of inexperience moving through the terrain. They took an L-shaped ambush and they just got cleaned up. And to me, it just seemed like a lack of like fundamental skills and tactics that you would have learned as an experienced soldier operating in, the infantry or some other branch or of the Army. So it's kind of like, to me, it seemed we're kind of sacrificing a little bit of experience for we need troops now. So with that being like how it happened with the SEALs, I mean, does it make you feel confident about the future of that? I mean, I don't know if that's the right question I'm asking, but like, does it?
Well, I think it's just kind of going back to that ambush. I think that was if I were to guess, I would say that was a B team, maybe an ODB. Not the A players yet, yeah. Inexperienced guys, maybe one or two senior guys on the team. And Africa isn't exactly a combat zone. Right. So, and even if it was, I've certainly found where I have become complacent at times when I probably shouldn't. And almost 100% of it, whether I was in a leadership role or doing something else, anytime that I've become complacent, just a little too comfortable, bad stuff happens.
Absolutely.
Like that, it's totally preventable, or at least much easier to fight out of the situation, not being complacent. But because you don't go into everything locked on and ready to go, even if it's a semi-permissive environment like Africa, and that wasn't the first team that's ever been shot at, right, or been ambushed in Africa. So it's just less prevalent. So it's harder to stay on guard all the time. But I mean, we lost guys in Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan. Yeah. And I will tell you that a lot of it was very we could have avoided a lot of unnecessary deaths. And, without going into, too many details here, but, a lot of it was complacency. And I know some of the guys that were doing some workups, they were, when we were doing our briefing, the E&E, or escape and evasion, which would generally be something like, well, I have a gun, and you have a car, and now I have a car and a gun. I mean, that was their E&E plan. I'm like, bro, that's not cool. And then bad stuff happened to them. But that was, they built that complacency into what they were doing. And that was my team. I mean, it wasn't my guys, but it was, I was part of SEAL Team 10 at the time. And yeah, totally avoidable. I don't think that those guys would have not gotten hammered on the hilltop. However, other decisions that were made could have been prevented.
Right.
I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if my platoon would have gone there, it would have been different. I know it would have been different, but
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like, and I in talking about the whole thing in Africa, I didn't mean to sound like I was in my mind I was like, do I sound like I'm like a keyboard warrior saying this stuff? But like he and I, we've been in combat.
No, armchair quarterback. Yeah. No, right. I don't think so. I mean, I think it just brings up a point of like experience and I think, complacency is for sure.
Yeah.
Complacency happens all the time. You just, the more that you're aware of it, the more you can turn it off.
Absolutely. No, so he and I, we were in Iraq for OAF 2. We were mechanized infantry with the Big Red 1. So we, in that year in 2004, we were pretty busy doing the job. And you're right. There were moments, even as busy as we were, there were still moments of complacency. And it's in those moments where you're like, something happens and it just snaps you back into reality, and you're like, oh shit, no, I need to be, on my gun. And so yeah, you definitely try, like, I mean, as the year went on, that was it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess, because like in the beginning, you're super hyper aware. Towards the middle, you're in between, and at the end, you're like, I just want this to be over with. So, I mean, a year is a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, no. So that I didn't want to come off as like I was like a keyboard warrior. Well, they shouldn't have done. They should have done this. They should have done that. But like lessons learned in hindsight, right? We can definitely look at like operations in the past and be like, okay, so what would have been better? And that's the whole point in an AAR. Do y'all call it that too in the Navy? AAR?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it sucks that unfortunate things like that happen, but hopefully, guys in the teams, guys in group, everybody in between can learn from those mistakes and be much better and more lethal, all across the globe when they need to be. So, but yeah, no, I completely forgot we even brought that up. I get a little spacey, I get a little ADD. But no, so man, I could probably sit there and talk to you about like these kinds of things. I get like super excited about this stuff. So I don't know if you know. So Tyree he's a talent agent in California, in Los Angeles. That's actually what he was doing today. He works with the company. So Tyree, I'm going to totally steal all of this from you. He works for a company that is specializing in helping veterans get into the entertainment industry. And so that's what he actually had going on today. Had a pretty big meeting with a known actor that we have coming on the show later on, Vincent Vargas. He's in Mayans, and then and then what was that company? VME, veterans.
VME. It's a veteran company that basically, exactly like you explained, gets all of the veterans that want to join the entertainment industry and give them a chance, give them a foot in the door, because there are tons of veterans out there who are 110% qualified to do these jobs that are available on sets, such as background work. Oh, you need somebody to run around with a gun and not shoot. We used to run around with a gun and say bang. I could do that all day for you.
right.
There's tons of
we did the same thing. Yeah.
Bang bang budget cut. I know. Okay. So when it comes down to, getting people's foot in the door, that's what we're here for. I'm not saying I'm going to make you a freaking star out the gate, but I can give you the chance to feel what it's like to be in front of a camera, $1 million sets and all kind of crazy stuff that you probably wouldn't.
Oh yeah, that's very cool. I'm actually flying to LAX tomorrow.
Oh, right on.
Or tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. So one of the things I do is I do like business leadership, mindset coaching.
Mhm.
But before I got into any of that, I actually went and hired my own coaches to help me figure out how to market,
Yeah.
how to market, the CBD products that I sell, and that sort of has compounded and spiraled into this other work that I'm doing as well. I mean, I started getting on podcasts because CBD is an industry that I can't run ads. It's still very restricted in what you can do, especially when it comes to running ads. And so one of my coaches was like, yo, you need to just get on like the biggest, baddest podcast that you can possibly find and educate people and all this other stuff. And I was like, awesome. Can I get on your podcast? And so I got on his podcast and that helped. And then that started, I've been on over 400 podcasts in the last 2 years, just trying to like spread the word. And that also helped me to start going down this road of coaching. Like the things that I'm doing now, when I got out of the military, kind of like whatever, if I were to like, be one of your clients and like somehow get in front of the camera to do that kind of work. It's not what I ever imagined doing while I was on active duty or when I came up to retiring. Like all of these things that I'm doing now happened because I just started putting work in. And, I kind of, talk to the veteran community quite a lot. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about is about that transition of from being an active duty, whatever it is, to becoming a civilian. I like to say that's the hardest military mission I've ever been on, and I'm still on it right now. I'm still trying to figure it out. They pour so much time and money and effort into training you to make you a soldier or a sailor or an airman or Marine or whatever it is, months and months of boot camp and then follow on school and whatever, and a good order and discipline and all those good things. And then I think I got a 1-week class of how to write a resume and how to make a budget.
Yep.
Was my transition education to become a civilian. And so I use the analogy of the Avengers movie where Thanos snaps his fingers and half the world's population vanishes. That's what I felt like when I left the military. Like I was working on projects, in my last 3 years, I was at the headquarters and I was doing like R&D work. We don't have an R&D budget, but we had, operational efficiencies. And I went out and found $16 million of other people's money to help solve problems that we had. And then I was like the day before I retired, I turned my BlackBerry. I replied to an email and I turned my BlackBerry and I was like, maybe you guys probably need this. I don't work here anymore. I don't really know what the hell I'm going to do, but yeah. So I think that's awesome what you're doing. And I hope you get a lot of people, a lot of work.
Oh man, it's crazy. Just in the last few days, it's been a tidal wave of people that we've been approving and getting work, at least auditions.
Very cool.
Because that's the very first start. But you hit on something that's very important. We've spoken to other people on the show about life after the military and what are you going to do. And you said you didn't picture yourself doing what you were doing at the time. What is the feeling when you really get into this new thing and you look back in the past like, man, that didn't match at all. This is totally different. I'm in the same boat as you. I was a police officer a couple of years ago. Nothing lines up, but everything is successful when you put your foot into it. So,
right.
Oh man, it's not easy, but it's a lot of fun to put your foot in something and really get the work in.
Yeah, and again, like the things that I'm doing now, I'm coaching companies, I'm coaching leaders in organizations. Never have I ever wanted to do that, nor did I think I had the ability to, or do I like? I know how to shoot people. I'm pretty good at that, and I can lead men in combat and other things. But what do I know about like corporate America? Not a lot. Well, it turns out the skills that we have from being in the military transition really well into helping other organizations build their organization much more efficiently. So I also do a fair amount of public speaking. I'd like to do a lot more. which is something that never, ever, ever in my life have I ever wanted to do. Like I knew guys that were like, yeah, I'm going to get out. I'm going to write a book and start a speaking thing and do this and that and whatever. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? I don't have a message to share. But again, this went back to like, I didn't know how to like market or run a CBD or any other company really for that matter, outside of just myself. And so I went and found some coaches, and one of my coaches, he was like, so everyone in this group needs to have a signature presentation. And I would say that the two of you and everyone listening to this should have something like that. And what a signature presentation is, whether you give it ever or not, it's kind of like your TED Talk. If you take one thing that you're really good at it, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's, talent stuff, maybe it's whatever, and you create a 10-minute talk about it where you can educate and entertain people in some way. And then you can also, because you're such an expert in that field, you can take that and you can stretch it out to a 90-minute thing. And you can present it from, a TEDx stage, all the way to, 2,000 people in an arena somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, well, I have this thing, this tagline that I'm using, get naked. And well, maybe I'll turn get naked into an acronym. Well, that made it too long. It wouldn't meet the 10-minute requirement. So I was like, let's just make naked into an acronym. And so I give that presentation. I'm actually giving it 4 times. I'll be giving it at least 4 times between now and April.
4 times is
and
not
going
enough.
to get paid for it.
4 times is not
It's
enough.
not. Like my goal is, I gave it a bunch of times last year, but that I'm just talking about just like this first quarter of 23.
No, so
I will give it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. No, I mean to cut you off. I just your PDF that you have, the 5 Soul Secrets, which naked is the acronym for, right?
Yep.
I read that, man, and I'm telling you, like it's not very long, which I appreciate so much, because I have ADD and it's really hard for me to sit there and like focus on something. But like, I didn't want to stop reading it, so I read it a couple of times, because it was really, really good. And it makes a ton of sense. And so you turn naked into an acronym, and it's an acronym that like beautifully fits, and you tie it into the ego. And that's the stuff when I read your profile on that app, whatever, when we first linked up, like that was the stuff that I was like, this is the stuff that we need to talk about. And to be completely honest, I hadn't even at that time when I messaged you, I didn't realize that you also had the CBD stuff going. I really wanted to talk about, to me, it was intriguing, a Navy SEAL talking about stripping the ego and staying authentic. Not to like, I feel like that's throwing a little bit of like shade towards the SEAL community or whatever. But like,
it's necessary though. I mean, I think, but it's purposeful as well, because if, kind of like what you're saying is if I can, based on my background, and I'm not saying that I'm great by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know the perception, because I have the perception as well. Anytime I'm like, oh, you're a team guy, really? Like my thought about you changes.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're in the military, my thought about you changes. I have a different preconceived expectation of who you are and what you are capable of doing. And so kind of my thought about it is if it's the opposite of everything I've ever been in my entire life. Never in my life have I ever thought or wanted to or considered showing any sort of weakness at any point, because I was afraid I would be eaten alive. And so that, that's what that tagline really is about. It's about taking that ego off, taking that armor that you wear around off, that you're hiding behind, take that off, become vulnerable so you can find the healing that you need. Some of us need more healing than others. Or it's about, taking that I almost never use the word PTSD. Or the letters PTSD. I use baggage. I just say we got baggage. Every single one of us have baggage. And are we brave enough to take, like, some of it we put in ourselves, some of it other people, some of it just life experiences. Are we brave enough to take that baggage off and set it down and walk away from it? And, thank you for the reminder. I do have to be reminded that, it's important to do. Someone who, like, if, I know a lot of the more famous SEALs out there, Some will never show any sort of weakness or vulnerability, and some will, and or they will behind closed doors. I'll do it out in the open. I mean, when I get on stage, I probably cry about 70% of the time, at least in the beginning. Some of it's nerves and some of it's, talking about, that number 22-0. But, because my dad is one of those 22 or 44 or whatever the number really is. Right. And so it like I will get choked up on stage, and then I'm like, okay, you guys see I'm just human. All right, let's roll. And then roll into it. So I think it also becomes a little more, it becomes a message where people are more open to receiving. Absolutely. If I show that vulnerability. And so, yeah.
No, I 100%.
And that's what people want. I think they want an authentic, real person in front of them.
No, 100%. So I'm in the reserves. I'm a reserve drill sergeant. So I go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I do basic training stuff. And I talk to my trainees to say, wait, don't be wrong. I'm strict. I can be a drill sergeant, right? The stereotypical loudmouth yelling and stuff. I don't really yell a ton because I feel like there's not a lot of training value in that, especially when my job is to train them, train, lead, mentor. That's what I believe a drill sergeant is. But when I speak to them, right, when I tell them, military experiences, when I relay to them why I want them to do something or why I'm having them do something, I come at them on a personal level. Like I treat them like they're people, and I want them to see me as a person as well. I mean, I tell them like the only difference between me and you is I joined the Army long before you did because I was born before you, right? Other than that, like we're the same. We're the same. I'm a human. You're a human. And I've found in doing that, I've been a drill sergeant in the reserve for a while, so I've had a lot of practice, and I found that in doing that, they are more likely to listen to you. They are more likely to, years later. I mean, I'll have former trainees of mine who've been in the Army for 10 years hit me up and say, "Hey, drill sergeant, I have a question," and that tells me two things. One, like they still trust me to lead them in the right direction, which is great. It's a great feeling. And two, that they apparently don't have a leader in their current chain of command that they do trust to lead them in the right direction, and that's disheartening. But that's a whole other tangent that I can go down for a while. But so, and like I said, in reading about these 5 secrets and the get naked, and the reason you added get into it, I mean, I really appreciate that about the go getting, what is it, the just the attitude, the mindset of being a Navy SEAL, being one of these like top tier operators, top tier people, right? Just like going after whatever the mission is, hitting the objective hard, and being successful in what you're doing. And then I think probably in my mind, the most important of the 5 to me was accepting failure. I mean, I'm sure you guys, you probably have some things to say on the acronym itself, but I just wanted to mention, like, it's accepting failure to me has always been super difficult, because I don't like to lose, right? I'm not an overly competitive person, but I don't like to lose. And when I went to drill sergeant school, the first time I failed, because I didn't take it serious. I did exactly what you were talking about. I shot for the minimum. I barely showed up. I didn't really put in the work, and I failed, and I was beat up over it. I cried when I called my first line supervisor. I called him, and I was like, "So I'm coming home early," and I was boohooing. I was bawling. Yeah, I was a wreck, man. That fucked me up. But I went back, a couple months later, ended up graduating like top of the class, commandant's list, whatever. One of the drill sergeant leaders there told me, he's like, "That's a great job considering this is your second time through." I'm like, "Come on, man." But no, that was a thing for me. So just reading about this and reading on the PDF, and we're definitely going to link that in all the everywhere we post this, whatever, because I want people to go to your website, and I want them to sign up for that, and I want them to look at your products, and I want them to download that PDF, and I want them to read it, probably print it out and staple it to your fucking wall, because it's definitely words to live by. But yeah, and I figure you probably have some words on the 5 secrets.
And I'm glad you said that. And for most people, at least one of those things stands out bigger than other things. For me, it was expose my fears.
Mm.
Now it's more kill mediocrity. And just to kind of just so that everyone listening, just to give you a little prequel to what it is. So NAKED is an acronym. The N stands for never quit. The A is accept failure. The K is to kill mediocrity. The E is expose your fears, and D is do the work. And when I first wrote that, and that is, you know, really my signature presentation. And I, you know, when I'm on stage, I you know, before I do the last SEAL secret of do the work, I'll put up a QR code and I'm like, hey man, if you guys got anything out of this, like if you want to see it again or read about it again or whatever, you know, go here and fill out the thing. And while they're doing that, I recite Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena, and I do like 2 verses instead of the one verse. And now I guess I practiced that so many times that my daughter knows it as well as I do. And so my goal to one day, and she's 9 now, she learned it last year right there with me. Actually, I learned it while I was traveling on the road and in the car. I didn't practice it in the house almost at all, probably not more than 5 times. She heard it, and she's super ADHD, just like me. Her mom doesn't get it, but that's just how we work. And then she just broke it out at dinner one night. Like, the poorest way to face a life is to face it with a sneer. And of course she got it from me, because no one else is saying that around here. And she would mess up the same place that I would. But to kind of come back to what you said about like print it out and staple it to your wall. When I first created that, I shared it with a buddy of mine who was he was going through some issues at work. So he works for an outdoor apparel company. They just got a big infusion of cash from a VC company, and those guys, they want their return on investment very, very quickly. And so the CEO was freaking out a little bit, and he came down, and I guess he was pretty hard on my buddy and the team. And so my buddy talked about, you know, he was talking about like his divorce and kids and other stuff. And then he was like, you know, in work, and I got this thing going on. And I would like kind of sat down and I was like, well, let's strategize. Let's figure out what your near, medium, and long-term goals are, talking to the CEO, which he had a meeting with the following day. And I'd like go with this plan. And by the way, check this out. I just wrote this, like, and give me your feedback. He didn't give me his feedback. And the first speaking event I had was in Denver, which is where he lives. We had dinner the night before, and I was like, so how did your meeting with the CEO go? He was like, oh, I didn't tell you. And I was like, no. And he said, well, so I went in there and I was like, okay, Kevin, here's the deal. I'm afraid if you talk to me like that, or the team like that, we will not be able to perform at the level that you need us to perform. So, and my buddy is not, like, he's not an aggressive person. He's a very like laid back and super chill dude. And so the CEO was like, okay, hold on. Like, first of all, why are you being assertive? Number 2, why are you saying, no, he said, he said, why are you being assertive? Why are you saying, let me see if I say it correctly. Why are you saying that you're afraid, and why are you being honest about it? He's like, oh, that was my buddy's 5 SEAL secrets. I'm exposing my fears right now. I'm afraid if you come and hit me the way that you hit us the other day and talk to us like that, that we're not going to be able to perform at the level that you need to perform. And his CEO was like, what are these 5 SEAL secrets? Send them to me. And so they've like sort of changed the culture in their organization based on that. I was like, win! That was awesome.
That is badass. That is fucking awesome. That's cool. Yeah.
So anyway, but what he said, what he told me, he was like, I read it, I printed it out, I laminated, and I taped it to my wall so I could read it over and over again. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. Thank you.
No, that's actually, I'm not even kidding. So like, I have this wall behind me, and I'm going to put it right there. It's hard to point on camera. I'm going to put it right above that photo. Actually, I'm actually going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to print it off at work. I think I might make it a little bit bigger, because so on that PDF that you can download, so it's got each tenet of the acronym, each letter of the acronym, what it means, and then you have you know, some paragraphs written on them, and like where they come from, and you tie in the Navy SEAL creed into it, which I think like worked out beautifully. So like there's a lot of just great stuff to read, but just having you get naked on the wall, you know what I'm saying? Like, because also, you know, like I'm at home, right? So I'm definitely gonna get naked here, but but also like that's just something that I wanna, you know, yeah. Oh, I was even gonna tell you, I was on your website and I was trying to buy well, let's do it right now. Because I'm excited to talk. I'm excited to talk about it. I really am. I was trying to buy the shirt, the OD. It's like an OD green shirt. It says "Get Naked." And then I was trying to buy the pet treats. You're sold out of the pet treats.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I just ran out.
Yeah.
I'll get more.
No, that's a great problem to have though, right? Because it's selling. It's people are buying this stuff. And that's amazing to see. So I have a 10-year-old Belgian Malinois, and her hips are like killing her, and I just want her to be as comfortable and as amazing and happy as she can be. And I've used CBD on. Also have a little Chihuahua who was a diabetic, had cataracts, and a plethora of other problems. Yeah, he's a big medical issue. But I was giving him CBD when at the height of all of his pain, and man, night and day in that little dude. So that stuff, like,
awesome, very cool.
I haven't used it a lot because I honestly I don't know a ton about it, but I have used it on them and I have seen it work. So I do believe in its properties and its abilities. I just have never thought to use it in or on myself. Kind of like, and I mean, I was reading it like again in your bio talking about like in the latter part of your career as a SEAL, learning about THC free CBD and other cannabinoids and how that can work and how they can benefit you, and how you waited until after you got out to really delve in and explore it. And that's kind of where I was with a lot of it too, because I mean, like, again, I'm still in, but no, like just seeing it work on him, like I just yeah, like this stuff works night and day for this guy. Yeah. And so I was gonna get on there and buy the pet treats, and I was gonna buy the shirt that gets naked because I want to wear that to the gym and have people look at me funny and be like, no, it actually means something. Ask me and I'll tell you. And then I was gonna look at the other products, and I was actually gonna ask you a recommendation on a couple of them. And then I had two questions actually about two different products, but we'll get into all that stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
No,
well, so this is how I got into CBD. In the first place is, I talked about sort of I retired. There's no such thing in my world, I don't think.
Right.
And I when I left, I felt like I lost my purpose, my mission, and my team. And then I started a company to help other companies sort of navigate the military acquisition system. But then I was calling myself a consultant, and like people were like, "Oh, consultants are criminals. They basically take your money and you don't get anything out of it." And I'm like, it's not me, but whatever. And I wasn't prepared for that grind either. Like people liked me when I was on active duty because what they were trying to do is butter me up so I'd buy their stuff. I can help other people buy your stuff now. You just gotta work with me over here. But anyway, so I was still missing that purpose, that mission, and that team. And so I was in Virginia taking care of some stuff with and I had lunch with a buddy of mine who used to be he was in my very first SEAL platoon. And I said after lunch, I was like, so I'm going to go see if I can find some CBD here in Virginia, because maybe what you have here is better than what we have in Hawaii. I have no idea. But maybe it is. And something weird happened to my screen.
Yeah, it went.
I don't really know. Anyway, not important. But my phone rang. That's what's going on. But and I was like, well, maybe what you have here in Virginia is better than what I have in Hawaii. I didn't know anything really about CBD other than I'd heard it on a bunch of on a couple podcasts, and it was becoming more popular. What I didn't know is it had just barely become legal federally. So he was like, oh, if you want CBD, I've got some at home. So we went back to his house. He gave me a couple of bottles that a company had sent him because he was a bit of an Instagram influencer. And so I tried CBD, and I didn't notice anything at all. I had zero. I didn't notice anything about my life really changing or being better or worse or anything else. And then I ran out of that bottle. And then, I started becoming a little more angry, and like some pains in my body started to get a little worse. And then I did a little self-reflection. And what I realized is, I use the analogy water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living my life at 210 degrees. So it didn't take much for me to, sort of hit that boiling point. And I'm, 100% disabled through the VA, which means I'm 250% disabled overall if you add everything up. And there's still things that they didn't even count. And so what had happened is, my fuse actually got longer when I was taking CBD. So I went from like 210 to 205 to 200 to 195, 190, maybe 185. I got out of that red zone, like on your tachometer, you're like hitting it before your engine blows up. And I got more into like an orange or yellow zone, certainly not a red, not the green zone, but I was further away from that boiling point. And then when I stopped taking CBD, I started getting back closer. So I tried a different brand. I had similar results, and like the pains that I was having or had less of, it was, my body's pretty beat up and broken down. And what CBD did from my perspective is it just made those sharp pains less sharp. It made them more dull. And when I ran out, they were just becoming sharp again. It was just, I got used to living in this pain. So what it did, it just made my quality of life better overall. And then I tried a different brand. I had similar results. And then I was like, I think this is where I want my new mission and purpose and whatever. And so I tried to find a company to hire me. No one was ready to hire me yet. I ran into a girl at a business conference, and she was like, so do you want to do A to B, B to B, or B to C? And she was in the CBD industry, and she was putting CBD into kinesiology tape, which was kind of cool.
That is cool.
And and so I was like, so I wanted her to hire me. And she was like, so I'm not hiring anyone. I don't have the bandwidth or the profits at this point. But I'm like, just teach me. She's like, well, do you want to do A to B, B to B, or B to C? And she was like, I was like, I want to do C, B, D. And she said, okay, well, why don't you start your own CBD company? And I said, I don't know how to do that. She said, you are a Navy SEAL. You can figure it out. So I politely asked her for my man card back.
Yeah.
And I put that in my pocket to not give that thing up again, for crying out loud. And then she helped educate me about the industry and like how corrupt and dirty and whatever it was. And so we just went out to I went home and I Googled how to start a CBD company. And then, I learned more about the corruption and how bad it was. And so my goal was to start the highest company that had the highest quality CBD on the market. And so, I went and partnered with, the highest quality suppliers still to this day. The suppliers that I partnered with, they have actually helped bring the quality in the industry up to a whole new standard that it wasn't prior to. So we're part of that, moving the standard to a higher level currently.
No, that is incredible. And you guys, so your product, you have sleep aids, you have muscle and joint pain, CBD energy, bath bombs. I thought that was kind of cool. I can't fit in a bathtub. I'm 6'2", 230. So like I don't fit in my bathtub.
You have to prop your legs up.
Yeah, well, it's either my upper body's in the bath and my legs are up in the air, or vice versa, and both look kind of just weird. I'm a big dude in the bathtub. Yeah. So that's not really going to work. You have immunity support. I didn't even realize that CBD had an impact in that area. So that's really neat. So
that product actually doesn't have CBD in it. But I mix it with the CBD energy drink. But the CBD does actually, the mechanism that CBD works on actually does support immune function.
Okay.
And so kind of the way that it works is CBD is it's just a molecule. And so let me back up. All mammals have what's called an endocannabinoid system, like cannabis. Yeah. And the way that they discovered, the way that scientists discovered this is they were really trying to figure out what is the mechanism of THC in medical marijuana. How is this helpful in any way, whatever? So what they did is they took a radioactive isotope, put it on a THC molecule, and put it in the human body. And then they tracked it with the MRI machine or whatever mechanism they used to do that. And through that, they discovered this whole giant neuroreceptor system that's connected to every other system in your body. Think about your central nervous system, your your endocrine system, your immune system, your digestive system. It's connected to every system in your body. And so why CBD and what feeds that endocannabinoid system, you have two molecules that you create endogenously. One is called anandamide, which is known as like the bliss molecule or the feel-good molecule. And the other is 2AG. It's a big, long scientific word. And those two molecules feed that endocannabinoid system. And you like my bro science. And it helps keep everything in balance. But oftentimes, if we have like chronic illness, chronic inflammation, like a bunch of chronic stuff going on with us, or we don't live in a healthy environment or whatever, the endocannabinoid system or some other system gets out of whack. If that other system gets out of whack, it pulls everything else out of whack. And so what CBD does, it comes in, it's like a super multivitamin for your endocannabinoid system, and it helps bring everything back into homeostasis. You know, you take vitamin C and you take D and zinc and whatever else is out there in the world, and you're like, I don't know if this is doing anything for me or not. Like lots of people take CBD. I'm like, I don't know if this is doing anything for me or not. It probably is. You just probably don't know it. And a lot of the feedback that I give people, they're like, I don't know if I feel anything or not. Well, kind of like me, what did I stop feeling? How did and I've had a lot of people just like with the energy drink. They're like, they ran out and they're like, I couldn't figure out why I was so like anxious all the time. Oh, I ran out of the CBD energy drink and I started taking it again. And I started, being, pretty level again. And, Joe Rogan actually said once upon a time, because he had a CBD sponsor for his podcast for a good long time. And he was like, I didn't even know I had anxiety until I started taking CBD. And then like, it just went away and like life was just better after that.
Do you find that it's difficult to get people in the military or former people, veterans, to try your products or any CBD products? I know personally, I would not even think about even trying to go anywhere near any of that stuff while I was in or a little bit after I was out, because, it's the bad stuff. You shouldn't use it.
Right. Well, I am a child of Nancy Reagan's war on drugs. Just say no.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone else about this today or yesterday. Like, I can still see the frying pan. It's like, this is drugs, and they crack the egg, and this is your brain on drugs, and so it's still in my head, and I was terrified to try it. But I think in as far as the military goes, my camera is all kind of jacked. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, we'll work it out.
We got the close up view of you.
Yeah.
I know. I don't even know how that happened. But I think currently the military is still not allowing people to use CBD.
Correct.
Because of where it's connected with. Now, you can't test for it. I know lots of people in the military who use it. Mm-hmm. I am not saying you can use it, or you follow the rules you're supposed to follow. Yeah. But it is, I anticipate it will be more accepted in the military in the next year or two. I could be totally wrong about that though.
No, I hope that you are not wrong. Because no, you're right. So first of all, to anybody who listens or watches and is hearing this, if you are in the military, by all means, follow UCMJ. But CBD, my understanding of it, and I definitely probably don't have the amount of knowledge on it on the subject as you do, but it's not bad for you. And like you said, you can't test for it, but you also can't really test for a lot of other things. So,
well, you can test for it, but it has to be very specific to that test. Yeah, when you're doing a urinalysis, they're testing for that 9 or 12 panel thing of truly illicit substances.
Yeah.
Federally illicit, blah, blah, whatever.
The bad
they're stuff. Not, if you were to test for it, but if you were to go get a home drug test and pee in the thing, because I had this happen to a guy. He was a Marine. He got out and he joined the Navy Reserves, and he was a early customer of mine. And then he joined the Navy Reserves, and he had his first urinalysis like day one. And he told him, like, yeah, I take CBD and it's broad spectrum and there's no THC in it. And they're like, bro, you can't do that. So he went and got a $60 CVS cup and he put a sample in there, and it showed positive for THC. It actually did not show positive for THC. It showed positive for the reaction that your body has when you have consumed some sort of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you're going to be fine. Like, that's not a laboratory test. That is just it's like a fake test.
Yeah. It's like cheap
because
test.
And so you to actually tell if someone has smoked a joint or used marijuana in any way, it has to be in a laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like high dollar equipment to really spec it out. And even I've known people who've taken, actually me, I still maintain my top secret clearance. I still do some government contract work. I still get drug tested. I was drinking my CBD energy drink on the way to my last urinalysis.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of CBD. I never had an issue.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna like buy some of your stuff because I'm super interested. And after talking to you and like a lot of like the aches and pains that you're talking about, my last cycle that I did, my trainees know me for one quote from Rick and Morty. I don't know if you've ever seen the show. It's a dumb cartoon. It's kind of funny, but anyway. But there's a character in the show who's brought in. His only job is to help people, and he ends up sticking around for too long, and they call him more of them. Blah blah blah. Anyway, the longer they are around, the more they are in pain. And so they kept saying existence is pain. And so like my trainees knew like that was like drill sergeant, like how does this not, like, how are you still doing this? Do you not hurt? Like I hurt every day. It's all the time. It's just, it is what it is. You just get used to it. And so now, like listening to you talk about this stuff and like your experiences and you know, I definitely want to try it. So I am going to buy a lot of your stuff, probably as soon as we get done here. But there were two that I really wanted to ask you about. The buzzing gummies and the M60. The M60, because it talks about like nano encapsulation, and so 4 milligrams, and it's into your bloodstream, and so it's probably in my mind it's faster, hits harder, and you know has more of an impact.
Yep.
But how does it like? What is the M60? I mean, not the military version of it, but like is
right,
it like,
yeah? So and that is where the name came from, really, because it looks kind of like an M60 fuse igniter. I just thought that was kind of cool. You pretty much explained it. So it's a very concentrated 4 milligram microdose of, which is maybe a good word or a bad word depending on like what circles you're in.
Good word.
It's a microdose, and you put it into like your pulse points, like very thin skin, like you put it on your wrist, and you rub your wrist together, like women do for perfume, or in your the crook of your elbow, or on the top of your feet, high vascularity areas, and it goes directly into your bloodstream, so it bypasses that first pass metabolism, like through your mouth and through your digestive system. The oils, the tinctures you hold in your mouth, and they kind of get absorbed through the mucous membrane and through the kind of vascularity in the mouth. This works similar but better. So like a 25 milligram dose that you take orally, this is equal to that, through a 4 milligram. So if you think about that, you lose 21 milligrams basically through the digestive system versus 4 milligrams that go pretty much directly into your bloodstream. And again, CBD, it works on that mechanism of, and also to help cross the blood-brain barrier and things like that, so that it, can help reduce chronic inflammation and pain and things like that. But it doesn't work with the M60. I've had the most positive feedback with people who have like carpal tunnel or have serious hand issues or things like that. And it's because it's so concentrated, it does a really great job in those aspects. And so it's just like there are not very many. I think I know all the companies that carry that technology because it came from one specific company. I know where it came from, and I think all the companies that carry it, and there are not very many out there. The buzzing gummies, you will not pass a drug test with those. The end.
Yeah. So that's what I was
we'll leave it
curious
there.
about. Yeah.
You will not pass.
Yeah.
What are the?
I mean, it's still federally legal based on the way that the Farm Bill is written, which is what made hemp legal, which made CBD legal. It's all hemp derived. But you know, even though I still maintain I will not pass a drug test now because I take those. And you know, for me, it's like I still have a little bit of I have an iffy relationship with alcohol sometimes. And so I have a good relationship with alcohol most of the time, but there are times where I don't.
Yeah.
And you know, it has gotten better over time. And the buzzing gummies really helped me have a very good relationship with alcohol. So you know, I take them after dinner with, you know, this our sleep salt gels, and in about an hour, I'm ready to hit the hay. I mean, yesterday I went for I'm training to do the R3, the rim to rim to rim of the Grand Canyon. So it's 48 miles. So start at the south rim, hike to the bottom, go across, hike to the north rim, turn around, come back down, across, and come back up. 48 miles. I think it's about 20,000 feet of elevation change.
For
and yeah, well, I'm also part of a group called Man Made, where we, you know, trying to help men become men again. And we go out and do these like sort of epic events, you know, adventure things. And this is one of them. This past summer we climbed the Grand Teton. I trained for it. It was still way harder than I anticipated. Still, it took us about 18 hours to do that. Training a lot harder for this one. And so anyway, I went for a run, and I hate running. It was like a 5 mile loop around my house, and I tripped. And I'm not going to show you, but like this whole, like I hit a curb that was just like and I landed on that thing, and it's just road rash down my, yeah. So I was like, oh, for sure. Maybe I should take 2 tonight.
Yeah.
And I tried to hang with the family as long as possible after dinner. And I'm like, yeah, I got to check out.
I am
but
so
it for sure
glad.
helped my relationship with alcohol.
I am so glad to hear a Navy SEAL say they hate running, because I hate running too, and I feel like I have something in common with a Navy SEAL, and that just I feel slightly more elevated. No, I totally get you on the whole alcohol thing. Like I'm the same way. Like I have to limit consumption when consumption happens. So and that's a whole thing tied to other things.
Sure.
Yeah, but so that the buzzing gummies though. So was it the Delta 9 stuff in there? I don't know a ton about that. My best friend, she knows a bit about that. Tyree may know from his extensive career as a yeah.
Just a little bit. I mean, I'm not exactly sure.
It'll be a very different experience. I was just doing a photo shoot in California because I also write for a magazine. You know, again, going back to like, how do you market? I want to become an author. I hate writing also. I do a bunch of stuff I hate, and I do a bunch of stuff I love. So I write for a magazine, and so the editor brought out a photographer. So I went out and stayed in Oceanside, and for a couple of days, and I was the only guy in the house. It wasn't terrible. And I brought, you know, a bunch of buzzing gummies, and there were several ladies that live in Colorado, which you can find that stuff all over the place. And they were like, this is a very different, very pleasant experience, very different than what we're used to having. So that was really awesome feedback, actually.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that being probably the best feedback, because my understanding is Colorado has the best shit.
Yeah.
From what I've heard on the street. Yeah,
it's easier to manage than California. California's got weird stuff going on.
California is weird completely. I keep trying to tell Tyree to move.
It's the best part about
I love California, but man, I don't want to live there.
Yeah,
I mean, I do want to live there if they would just change the government significantly
and make it cheaper. I mean, I'm saying that coming from Arkansas. Well, you know, you said you're from Mississippi, so you know, like going from Mississippi to Hawaii, you know what I mean? Granted, the Navy helped get you there, right? But like that's not something like for me, like my mortgage is like $900 a month. You know what I mean? My mortgage for my 3-bedroom house, right? Like, you know, you're not gonna find that on the West Coast or Hawaii.
No, you are not.
Definitely not gonna find it here. No, you're gonna find I will share with you that we carved out a 400 square foot studio area of our house, and it rents, because this is how I pay my mortgage. It rents for $2,200 a month.
No way. Stop it.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah. That's
Jesus.
And, yeah, and people pay it for
Hell
a
yeah.
studio
Happily.
apartment.
That's good shit.
That's
You know,
wild.
Yeah.
you gotta make money, or you have to prosper the best way you can where you are. And
Yeah.
if people will
Yes.
pay, I will sell.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
awesome. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
No, that and I can get behind that, but I mean it doesn't. But definitely makes it more difficult for me. Like if I was to consider to move to say Colorado, it's also expensive there, and I mean again, $900 mortgage. You know, just 12 hours away from Colorado. I'll just drive. I'll just drive there to go see some stuff. You know, I'll fly
Just
out
get in the
to
car and
LA.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So earlier you said the term, and you were like, depending on the circle, right? Micro dosing. So actually, I think it was like the last episode that he and I did. We talked about. I had done some reading on studies. And there's actually a documentary on Netflix. I still can't remember the name of it, but where they talk about like psilocybin and LSD and MDMA and all those other things, and like microdosing these things, and how they're actually supposed to help out with depression, anxiety, PTSD, or baggage, as you put it. Which absolutely, that's actually when I first even heard about what PTSD was, it was explained to me as like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have this extra 20, 30, 40 pounds that you're carrying around, baggage.
Of crap. Yeah.
But no, so like this I guess there was a ton of studies on, like psilocybin and LSD back in like the 50s going into the 60s, and then it was just like the government saw it and they're like, oh no, stop it, it's illegal, no more, Schedule 1. And then now in the last like 10, 20 years or so, it's been a kind of a resurgence in the studies, and they're seeing great results. There's like a ton of great, obviously, like don't go find a dealer and buy fucking MDMA or Molly or whatever the shit fucking from that person, because you're probably going to get fucking fentanyl and die. But in these controlled scenarios with a licensed professional, they're seeing like insane results, right? Like people, one thing that the documentary talked about was people that have been diagnosed cancer, and that's it. Right? They're stage 4. They're not coming back to terminal, right? They're not coming back. And they're going through these sessions, and just one session changes their mindset on the concept of death, and they're more okay with it, and they're more at peace. They're less anxious about it. And how it's being treated for people with PTSD. I mean, it's just the I don't know if there's not, I know it's not numbers, but the numbers are out, and they're good. So it'll be interesting to see like how all that progresses over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Likely
I
still
actually I have a buddy who started a nonprofit that supports veterans getting that kind of therapy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's also a SEAL.
Okay, that's badass.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
we recorded with a guy.
his like I ran into another guy. I was in Vegas at the SHOT Show 2 weeks ago on my way to California for that photo shoot, and I ran into a guy that I knew from the teams, and he talked to me about it. He's like, yeah, I went through it. It was weird and crazy and awesome, and I didn't think I was doing anything different when I got home, but my family knew almost immediately that there was something different about me. The way I carried myself or whatever. And I was like, it was awesome. And I've talked to several other veterans that have had that therapy, and they've all talked about like what amazing results, and potentially I'll go do that at some point.
Yeah.
I'm less, I'm also of the, like, they need it more.
Yeah, no, same.
Let them do it before I do it. But you know what I mean? But potentially at some point, but I've done enough to like self-work that I'm much further along than I would have been. But again, CBD was a modality that helped me get there. And then I had to, that 5 SEAL secrets, that get naked mindset is something that I had to just keep going back to every day to get where I am now.
Yeah. I think of the get naked acronym of everything. I think do the work is, like you said, it's probably the hardest part for a lot of veterans.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times there are people who, and we can explain it. You get out of the military and you have this job in your head and you know you're going to get it, and you get this job and you're like, okay, I run this place now, but you got to start from the bottom all over again. So a lot of people don't want to do the work. Like personally, I don't
Yeah.
like doing the work either. It fucking sucks. But right now, it's a lot of fun doing the work that I'm doing because I enjoy it. A lot of people, I
Right.
think, if you do the work that you love, it's not work. It's just you having fun every single day. And I think a lot of people will understand that a lot better, and they won't or shouldn't shoot for, I'm going to be the manager here because I was the manager back in the army, or I was the manager back in the Marines. No,
Right.
we have to ego. Everything is all connected. You have to knock that ego down and start from the bottom and rebuild. And people have more respect for you, I think. Um,
And I think also there's a process. If you can get in and do something that is hard, like doing these whatever, climb the Grand Teton or go do the R3 or whatever. Like there's a like doing the event is gratifying, but there's a process. Like I'm not going to show up being someone with my background and having a bunch of other civilian dudes who know what I used to do. I'm not going to show up and not be in shape.
yeah.
Like I have to, there's an expectation of me and I have an expectation of myself. So I have to like grind. It's just like doing work or starting a business or whatever it is. There's a grind that happens that but you enjoy that grind. You enjoy the process of getting where you're going, whether you get to the end or not, whatever that end is. And if you listen to a lot of like the bigger personalities, Gary V or who are some other people? Some of I know my coaches, who Alex Hermosi, or he's a brand new guy that just popped up pretty recently. Tony Robbins, like they're all like embrace the process. Talk about the process. Yeah. Like get that, like do that work every single day. Yeah. Andy Frisella, all of those guys are talking about the process. Do the process, embrace the process, go do the work at the end of the day is really what you got to do.
Yeah, no,
you got to do it.
Yeah,
if
man.
You see something.
And like, and kind of the way I've seen it, it's like so you wake up, right, and you maybe you're not feeling to your max that day, but can you do 100% of what you can, right? Can you push yourself as far as you can that day? Maybe today is maybe slightly less than yesterday, but can you get there? Can you put in that work to achieve whatever it is? So a big thing, and this is an easy one to compare it to, and I think a lot of people can relate. Going to the gym. I go to the gym. I love to work out. I love fitness. I love all things fitness. But still, I find myself when I go to the gym, sitting in my Jeep, staring at the gym, not going in. I'll be tired, or I'll still be sore from a previous workout, or it's because I drove an hour and 20 minutes from where I work to my gym because I work way out of town. And I just don't want to go in. I've put in a 10-hour day already. And you think about like what we used to do in the military, 10-hour day, that's nothing. But I go work out, I get in there and I have a great workout, and I'm feeling the pump, I'm feeling the blood flow, and it's an immediate like, why did I sit there that long to bring my ass in here to do this? Right. And that's kind of the thing. So like, even if you're not feeling up to it that day, put in the work, and I promise you at the end of the day, you'll be thankful you did. 100%.
Oh, 100%. My gym is about 20 feet from me, like right over there. And I still get that. I'm like, maybe I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Just do it, stupid.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. I'd be sitting there for like 20 minutes, being like, just go inside, just go. And usually, what'll get me,
I can find myself being very busy.
Exactly. No, what usually gets me in there is I drink a lot of water heading to the gym. I mean, I drink water throughout the day, and like I'll have to pee really, really bad. I'm like, you know what? Nope, got to go in. I'm gonna piss my seat. So I go to the gym, and that's what gets me in there. And like, well, now that I'm here, I guess I'm gonna work out, and it's always a good time. I never have a bad workout after that, even if the workout wasn't that great. That's what's cool about it. It's like, it works out.
Yeah.
But hey, so we're gonna we're gonna listen. I'm gonna. I feel like we've taken a lot of your time, and I want to take more of your time because this shit is interesting as fuck, and I want to tell people about it. And the way we're gonna do that, we're gonna publish your show. We're gonna market the fuck out of you. Like you're gonna be all over my Instagram, the
Awesome.
podcast
Thank you.
Instagram, the Facebook. I mean, like I'm gonna have you. I'm telling you, it's right there. It's the spot right there on the wall. So yeah, no, definitely want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show and talk about this stuff and working with the schedule snafu earlier. Really appreciate that. Like I was super worried. I really wanted to record with you today because it is February 2nd and that's an important day. I feel like in a way. So but yeah, no, thank you so much, William. And again, so
Yes, sir.
for everybody that's not that hasn't heard already, it's the website nw-recovery.com, Naked Warrior Recovery. All right. Motto: get naked, y'all. In more ways than one, but definitely in this way. Mr. Branum, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you. Thank you guys for having me on here. I had a great time.
Yeah. So hey everybody, thanks for listening to Before I Forget. Please remember to like, listen, share, subscribe, watch, share as usual, and we will talk to you later. Kevin, my main man, without the all right.
Spam can.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Say bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.